So I'll call the meeting of the Tomahawk School Board to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yep. Hageman, Hughesby, Kirsch,
Here.
Kissinger Wolf,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Scuba,
Here.
Swinty,
Here.
Baloo,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Yep.
Okay, we have a quorum, so everyone should have the agenda, so entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I so move, Scuba.
Second, Baloo.
Okay, a motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Well, this is a fun part. Hopefully I can get through it. If not, get ready.
Okay.
Yeah. The Tomahawk High School boys hockey team was active in the community this past season with two separate community events and giving back to the Tomahawk community. The first event was a cancer benefit game on Thursday, December 14th versus Mosinee. The student athletes participated in fundraising for two local families affected by cancer. Mosinee, in return, raised money the following week when Tomahawk traveled to the Mosinee Rec Center and donated to the cause to help the Hatchets' efforts. In the second event, the team helped to raise money for the Star Foundation in town and participated in the Star Splash event. The team again was the highest fundraising group for the event, and they gladly took their plunge into Lake Mohoxen for our community. Our community has always fully supported our different activities at the school district of Tomahawk and our students. One goal of the activities department moving forward is to get back to our old traditions of our student athletes helping within our community and giving back. The hockey team and their families have gone above and beyond to give back, and we could not be prouder of them. We wish them nothing but the best down the tournament season stretch, as they have already made so many community members proud with their efforts. Tonight we would like to recognize head coach Dewey Riley, assistant coaches Andrew Flynn and Cole Woodall, along with the 23 team members for representing our district at such a high standard. So if you gentlemen would come forward, please. Dewey.
Thank you.
Andrew.
If I can just recognize a couple other people.
Cole.
That's all right.
In here, yeah, just a second.
Yeah.
So it's for you, this is for the kids. Go ahead.
So, with that being said, I like to give credit where credit is due, and I get to be the face and the recipient of this, but you're only as good as the rest of your team. And a huge part of our team and success is the families behind us, and two of those members are with us tonight. The head of our Blue Line Club, Sherry Lamer, she did 99.999% of the work for Pinkton Rink. I focused on hockey with these guys, and she did that. And that is now kind of an annual thing that we're going to be doing. And to say that she's crushed it is an understatement. I can't remember the total. Do you remember off the top of your head?
It was about 4,000 before what Mosinee is.
Yeah. So, and that 100% of it goes directly back to the two families affected by cancer. Second is PJ Childers, who is also part of the Star Foundation and brought it to our attention that it's a great opportunity not only for us to be present in the community and give back, but it's just kind of a fun event for those of you that haven't been there. It is pretty cool to see everybody do it, and I will fully disclose that I was not tough enough to jump in. Which again, delegating to people who are braver than I am. Okay, but PJ, what were we able to raise for the Star Foundation?
So the team raised almost $10,000 this year.
Wow.
Half of that goes to the Blue Line Club, and the other half goes directly to the Star Foundation, which is available for community grants. In addition to that, we were the highest raising team for the second year in a row, so we received another $1,000 bonus
Yeah.
for the Blue Line Club.
And again, it's awesome for us to be able to, with budgets and everything else, to be able to kind of self-fund and do these things. And all of this is possible because of, family members and team members like that who put it all together. So those two
But
should be
just to give the
recognized.
kids a lot of credit, right? Like, they're
Yes.
the ones who raised the money.
Yeah, and it was nice because,
And jumped.
yeah,
Yeah, so we didn't have to do that part.
and we like to say it's not mandatory, it's just not optional. So, thank you very much for recognizing us, we appreciate it, and hopefully we get some wins here coming up. So, thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Enjoy your meeting.
Okay, district administrator update?
All right, couple things. I'll share the driest part for, I guess it's not a dry part, but you guys, the folks that live in our community saw the PFAS notice recently came out. This was something that I had sent communication to all of our district families sometime in January. And we shared it with our staff so they were aware. We're not at the level limits where we would need to have any type of a mitigation system in place. But they are watching those levels, and I know in meeting with Glenn Hanna, Arlen and I met with them, they're looking at some different options on potentially what's causing this and why it's showing up the way it is. So there's a lot of unknowns right now. Nonetheless, that has gone out, but I just wanted to make mention of it. That is the communication. The timing was a little distant between the public notice going out and what we sent. But we are also posting that notice at each of our water fountains throughout the district so people are aware. Right now, we won't be doing anything other than that, so we do encourage folks that are sensitive to it and want to bring their own water from home.
Okay.
And we will be closely monitoring that with the city, and if we need to take some measures, we'll be prepared to do so in the future when that comes up. So a little more fun item, I just wanted to update the board on our Wall of Honor. So we recently had another committee meeting. Our committee consists of Colleen. I'm gonna call you the chair of the committee, even though you probably don't like that, but Colleen's the one that's coordinating and pulling together and doing all the work behind the scenes to get our quotes and work with the companies and putting a ton of work into this. We also have Tom Garrigan, Bob Soward, and Jerry Johnson and Dan Ryder, who are part of that group. So we have made some pretty great progress, and attached to my board report, you will see a flyer that shows what this project is going to look like once it's completed. So there's a mock-up. So currently we're looking at planning some fundraisers and some different ways that we can generate some funds to pay for this, and we have some donations lined up. I'm sure we'll have some more that come in, but we're kind of at that phase where we're gonna start to order some of these things because the turnaround on getting them here is pretty lengthy in some cases, but this is a great project, and it's actually, it looks really great, better than I think what we anticipated it even would. So we're excited to get that.
Going to a local vendor for those tags or recognition, or
We
usually
put it out.
Our
Yeah.
kids are gonna engrave them.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So the tags, we just ordered the little silver
That's
tags.
what I
Our
was
kids will
asking.
do that. Our shops will make the bigger plaques. The
Excellent.
emblems we had ordered through a company that hand paints them and specializes in that. And then the sign is through Graphic House down in Wausau, because it had the backlit lighting and some of those things that create a shadow effect to it. So yeah, we getting everything complete. So and then a couple of things I just wanted to reach out. You've probably seen circulating. There's a number of bills that impact education currently making their way through the hearing process and ultimately in through the legislative process. We're nearing the end of this legislative session. So from the folks that I've talked to, there's not a lot of anticipation that a lot of these things are actually going to get passed or get signed into law, but going through this process is setting it up for, I think, the next session and how the negotiations would happen. But a couple of those that I wanted to make you aware of is there is a decoupling bill, AB 900, that ultimately decouples the funding for vouchers from the local tax rolls and would place that then on the on the state So this one, I think, has a lot of support. The hearings have gone through, but I don't think from what has been conveyed that it's ever gonna get signed, at least in this session. So, but this is something that they're continuing to look at, and there's some, there's some negotiations, I think, going on between the governor's office and the legislature to find a way that this would be something that he's willing to sign. Nonetheless, the hearings, from what I understand, were really good in terms of providing some information to the general public on how vouchers are funded and what the plan is to fund them into the future. So that's one that I think will come back around during the next session, but it's definitely out there gaining some interest right now. Next one is rehiring annuitants, so SB 908. This is something that keeps coming back. It's something that directly impacts our district. We know that we don't have a lot of applicants like we used to have when we were talking about teaching jobs or even sometimes administrative jobs. This allows us to fill that gap, and there were some accommodations made to the bill so that it would be more palatable to the folks that were against it. Put some time restraints on it and some other things. So again, there's a slim possibility something would happen in the next month or so in this session, but it's slim. But this is something I think we're going to see coming back, especially as hiring gets more and more difficult. And that's not just impacting education; it impacts anybody who would be in that public WRS retirement system. So, as hiring tightens up, this is something that I think, I hope anyway, is something they're going to get a little more relaxed on and allow us to pursue. And then the last one was a 4K funding bill, and you probably saw WASB put some information on this. It utilizes what's called a community approach. And a lot of schools, I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of schools, especially in bigger areas, utilize a community approach that ultimately allows for an agreement between the school district and a daycare provider that meets certain requirements and has 4K aged kids, where they could fund, I think it's at 95% of what a student would be able to be funded through at 4K level on the tax roll. So ultimately it puts that cost onto the taxpayers in your community. Like I said, some schools that have this, they work out an agreement where they are in agreement on what kind of curriculum will be used, what the day will look like, the learning opportunities that will be there. But with this bill, it mandates that community approach and pulls away the requirements to for a provider to have to utilize certain curriculum and that sort of thing. So this is one that's going back and forth too. Again, not one that there's a lot of momentum as to actually being signed into law, but it is something that we will see come back around again. I think in negotiations we'll obviously change it a little bit. So. The community approach, I should say, is something that currently is a voluntary thing, and this would put a mandate on it. So I think, in some places that may be needed, but I think it would be something that would be a little more detrimental in our area to do it that way. Questions on any of those items? I'll keep you posted.
Any
as we
questions?
learn more with some of those bills as they work their way through.
Okay. Is that it? Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. To approve the consent agenda items you should have in front of you, there's a number of them, a lot of minutes, that kind of stuff. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented on item 8.
And second?
I'll second Hirsch.
Okay, motion is second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks, Ann.
Boy, good to hear that.
Is that loud?
Oh, yeah. I normally jump in.
Yeah.
There's voices from above. I don't know. It is Fat Tuesday. Watch out.
Oh, it's fine. It was fun. Okay, then approval of the new CTE course. Ryan, you want to talk about this?
So I'm just gonna share my screen here. So just a moment, our new test. Looking good, Colleen.
It's all being
Oh, maybe not. Try sharing it again. Yeah, but if I hit maximize share, it seems to turn it off. Well, it might be all together.
LFB first.
Huh?
Can we go with it?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's a little bit small, I can always share this presentation with the board afterwards. It's pretty introductory type information, but for me, I always like to make sure that the board understands the context in which a class is coming to us and why we're proposing it. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background information on that, and feel free to ask questions as we go through things. So we're calling the course Power Systems because it's going to focus on two different areas. One is fluid power, specifically hydraulics, and then electricity, AC and DC electricity. So this class is actually done in partnership with Nicolet that I'll get into more detail about, but it's the technical college system has an internal grant system that they can utilize. And so last school year, I was approached by Nicolet Jeff Lobbs, the Dean of Trades and Industry and Apprenticeship, about a concept to try to bring more of these types of classes into high schools because it's such a high need for many of our businesses in our area, but also state and nationally as well. So I was very supportive of helping them and writing the grant and how that would look in our school, and the grant was accepted. So as we go through this, just understand it's a partnership with Nicolet and that it's a grant funded piece to get it off the ground and working in high schools. So for us, one of the key areas that we're working on is this pathway project that we've talked about in the past, whether it's health careers, advanced manufacturing, engineering, business, whatever it might be. We have this idea of the pathways with a series of courses that embed things like industry credentials, dual credit opportunities where students are earning high school and college credits at the same time, work-based learning, all those different components. And we have a focus group that's ongoing right now that we started this year with representatives of many of our local employers participating in that. And so this class fits in multiple pathways, but it's really heavy in the advanced manufacturing and engineering pathways because of the concepts that we're introducing. So just some information that I grabbed real quickly from one of the workforce development information sources for Wisconsin was this idea of some of the most, where this class would fit into a lot of the most heavily needed careers and their pay associated with them. So as you look through them, you would see, if it was a little bit large, you'd see things like maintenance and repair workers, packaging and filing machine repair, CNC tool operators and repair, electromechanical, electromechanical assemblers, industrial maintenance, things of that nature. And if you look at the right-hand side, if you can see some of those, the salary benefits of those types of positions is very, very high because it's skill sets that involve a lot of different technical skills and knowledge and a lot of problem solving and ability. And so this class is a foundational piece of many of those careers that we would be starting to build upon. The same thing you would see in the engineering pathways as well, those career clusters. You know, the repeated pattern of people with those skill sets have a lot of opportunity and opportunity for good pay and wages as well going into the future. So I like this class because it's written at a level that's foundational and fundamental, but it touches a lot of different career paths that these skills will be used daily, you know, when you go and look at those. So you have a copy of the course documents that were provided with a lot of the learning targets and outcomes. And so I just wanted to highlight those pieces. So one thing I want to help understand is our local class is called Power Systems. When you look at this from a Nicolet lens, there's two different classes that students are taking. So one is the hydraulic components and schematics. The other is the basic electrical circuits. And I highlighted the key units within those classes in these boxes. And so one of the things that I thought was really, demonstrated why Nicolet and other technical colleges are so adamant about getting these experiences for high school kids is because when you think about when technical colleges are also contracted to act as professional developers of their staff, of business staff, I should say, this is one of the most highly asked for classes, or these two. So when they're working with a PCA or a Harley Davidson, whatever it might be, giving the training to their employees through the technical college. There's several degrees on there that you probably have heard of before, things like electromechanical technology, industrial electronics, and maintenance. When I said this was a broad scope type of class, when you think of things like forestry equipment maintenance, heavy equipment maintenance, these same concepts and principles are there. You probably start to hear a lot more about things like aviation, so airplane maintenance and those components. These classes are huge in that. So it's very broad, but we tend to think of it a lot in advanced manufacturing, but they're all the same concepts and skill sets. So when you think about why this class would be important for THS, there's classes that we already offer that would kind of touch or highlight some of these things. So for example, in physics, you might learn about the scientific principles of fluid power, but you're not going to dive into the systems of fluid power and how it's used and how it's maintained, things of that nature, problem solving. When you look at our principles of engineering class, you're going to learn the basics of the basics about electricity. You're going to learn about how fluid power like hydraulics and pneumatics would be applied in different scenarios. You're not going to go into the details of a system and all the different pieces. So there are concepts that are touched on here and there throughout classes, but nothing that dives more deeply into them. So this would be different than the things we
Right.
already have.
You brought up, I was gonna ask a question when you're done, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump in. Does this course contain anything on pneumatics?
Not this one. No, this is
Okay.
all hydraulics.
Okay. Okay. Is that something we might be looking at in the
We
future?
could. Nicolay didn't propose that as a starting point for us because they deal more in the hydraulic pieces with the programs they have. Obviously, pneumatics has its applications where it's better than hydraulics, that piece. So we haven't gotten that far, but we did talk about the fact that it's purely hydraulics. Some similarities in the systems.
Okay, because a lot of our maintenance mechanic at the paper mill get both.
Yep.
Both parts of it, the hydraulics and pneumatics.
And that is in their electromechanical and industrial maintenance programs where they have courses.
Mhm.
And I think, I don't want to speak with full truth to it, but I believe it was something that was in a 3-credit class where they would cover that versus these being 1-credit classes.
Okay. Okay.
So how the kids are going to learn in this? So the grant is actually covering the trainers. So you can see here the two of the different trainers that are involved with that students would be using on a daily basis. One is more for AC/DC electricity. The other is a hydraulic trainer. So if you were to go over to Nicolay, they have whole labs full of these trainers. So we'll get access to these here at our school that would be purchased through the grant. So we don't have to worry about any costs like that. And actually, just today at 3:20, we had a meeting with our Nicolay representatives, 2 people from Harley Davidson in the engineering department, and then a PCA, the head of maintenance at PCA, and just wanted them to hear about this class as well and get some feedback. And it was an hour-long, fantastic discussion. And so they were both very supportive of these ideas coming into the high school level and the needs. That was an easy sell because they're begging for it every day with people with these kinds of backgrounds. But the really great thing that came from it was, okay, so the kids are going to be here learning at school about these on trainers. How are we going to get them over to Harley Davidson to see it? How are we going to get them to PCA and the mill to see it? And the other businesses that need this too, and that's great. I mean, that's what we're asking our businesses to help us with is get them out of our walls and get them with you in a business and actually seeing it. And so when they walk into PCA and see, paper machine number 4, it's big and it's intimidating, but it's the exact same thing you were learning on this trainer back at school. And they can actually see that piece. So great meeting and understanding how this fits with how we can partner with businesses so that kids aren't only sitting on a trainer learning things, they're seeing it in real life. Just the last slide I had was some other things that Nicolay will be doing with us through the grant. And a lot of it's common with all their dual credit classes, but they would be training our high school instructors this summer, whoever it is that we're having do this. They want to definitely be involved, which we appreciate, is visiting THS throughout the course of the semester and what's just taught, where they can also co-teach / be a guest teacher with the kids from time to time as they're offering it. As always, we would get access to all the curriculum needs that we would have and the learning management system that Nicolay uses for their coursework. And then all the other supports that students that are in a dual credit class would get with Nicolay. So They didn't miss anything in their writing of the grant and how to make it easier for high schools to incorporate it into the program. So that's a lot of info, but I guess I just again wanted to paint the picture for you of the why. That's the
Is this grant renewable, Ryan, or is it just a one-time?
It's a one-time grant that they apply for, but they can always look to reapply. The good thing is we were asking about sustainability with the equipment. And we got really good feedback from the instructor who teaches these classes that they're not high maintenance, and the pieces that do tend to break, you don't have to. They're not expensive parts to replace. That you don't have to go through the same vendor. You can buy them from other places and replace. And he was very willing to help us with any kind of equipment maintenance we might need for trainers.
So we have a question. So the course offer here is a half a credit.
The students will get a semester class for a half credit.
Okay, half credit. And then the other two attachments you had on, those were Nicolet's classes?
Those
'Cause
are
they
the
were each
Nicolay, yep,
And they're
correct.
each a credit, okay.
Yep.
I just was trying to get that, because they had Nicolet logos in all of them. I was trying to figure that out. Okay.
Do we have an idea of how many students are showing an interest in?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of kids interested in tech ed, which is great, and
Okay, yeah.
hands-on learning. I think with any new course, that first year
It'll
is
take a
critical.
while.
So that's kind of the unknown. Obviously,
Okay.
there's kids that we know through our academic and career planning that we're gonna say this is something you need to consider and look at, and some of them have even made choices, so that's kind of your low-hanging fruit, to make sure that they know about it, but that's the part that's kind of unknown.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else, Ryan?
Unless you have other questions.
Any other questions?
No, but thank you for answering my questions. I had.
And again, if you'd like this, I can have it sent to the board afterwards.
Good. Okay, thank you. Next item is a,
So for the
Sorry.
vote, I might not have put a recommendation on there for some reason, but we did want that approval so that if it was ready to, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we were
oh, I'm
prepared
sorry.
to offer it this year, that we could.
Yeah.
I
that's
should
my
just
fault.
mention one other thing, I'm sorry. Mr. Peisig was gonna come with me today and he became ill. And then our other two tech ed departments, one of them's running an event right now and the other one couldn't make it this evening. So I was flying solo for the reason.
Yeah, we need to.
Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the new CTE course offering as presented.
I so move, school ball.
Long second.
Okay, a motion is second to approve the new CTE course offering. Any further discussion?
Just so it's a power systems course, because the approval says approve hydraulics and AC/DC power course. That's where I was confused. So it's just one
So
course.
our course title is Power Systems.
Okay,
And then the Nicolay courses that would be taught through our one class are the other two that you see.
Any other? Okay, motion is second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, approval of the academic and technical excellence scholarship recommendations. And the alternates, anything with that window we need to do?
No, just the attachment is there for you.
Yep. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the academic and technical excellence scholarship.
Long so moved.
Second?
Kirsch, second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the academic and technical excellence scholarship recommendations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Smart Lab proposal.
Okay, so we have Pat Salstrand here to present. The folks that were with us at the state convention, yes, you guys heard him already
Yeah.
at the state convention. So
Okay.
he traveled all the way here to see us from Minnesota today to talk to you about and get you up to speed on what Smart Lab is, what it can offer our students, and what the program looks like. This right now is not a item that's up for approval. This is just informational for the board, and what we'll do is we've been working with Pat to pull together a cost analysis and a bid for this and what our needs are. So we'll bring a recommendation to the March meeting, but I wanted the board to hear Pat's presentation and learn a little bit more about it now.
Real good. Thank you, everybody. Again, I am Pat Saulstrand, Regional Sales Manager. I'm gonna sit, if I stand, I block a lot of views, so and I'm waiting for a link, so oh, there it is. So I can share my presentation. It was good to meet a number of you at the Ed Conference out in Milwaukee here almost a month ago. And Smart Lab, let me just get this pulled up and then I can put my brain into
While Pat's pulling this up too, I'll just add that this isn't, funding for this program would be covered through our summer school grant that we received last year. We had $500,000 summer school grant, so that's where we're looking to pull the funding if we were able to make this. We'd be able to use that grant for a long-term investment for our district rather than one summer school.
All right. So, Smart Lab, as an organization, we work with elementary, middle school, and high schools working on project-based learning around the STEM and STEAM content areas. And as your high school, tech ed, and how do we feed those areas, and how do we get kids interested in those types of things, we want to touch them early and give everybody a really broad spectrum of ideas of what's out there. Currently, as an organization, we've been around as a company for 36 years. We're out of Longmont, Colorado, right by Boulder. Currently we serve over 2.5 million students. You can see the numbers there. We work with really project-based learning across all of these areas and getting students of all abilities hands-on onto technologies. Let them be problem solvers, find their niche, find their expertise and their what makes me tick? I never thought I'd like this, and until you put your hands on it. So some of the key elements that we have when you look at, our turnkey, and that's one of the unique parts about what we do is we're a turnkey provider. In a turnkey provider, we're putting in everything from the furniture to the technology to all the hands-on materials, the technology, the curriculum, the professional development. So it doesn't become something that really is an animal that oftentimes runs out of control. And, for the teacher, you're thinking, wow, I got to place a big Amazon order because I need all these things. I need to track this down. And so the management of things get to be quite hairy. As well, looking at content and curriculum that is standards-based, looking at great activities. You can see a lot of great engagement that you might have students, but you don't know necessarily, are we looking at the math standards, the science standards, the ISTE standards? How is that being delivered through these type of instruction? The second part on there is student-led project-based learning. And so in this lab, it is a very active place because the students are doing the driving of the instruction. I am setting them up with a project starter, and it may be something that the students have some choice in, or I can make a choice with them of what they might do. But then it's their job to jump in, and they're going to walk through. And one of the first things they do is work on SMART goals. And they think about, all right, if we're going to achieve this, SMART goals is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And when the facilitator or your classroom teacher works with them on that, when they're sharing their SMART goals, one of the things that the facilitator or teacher we're asking them not to do is go in and correct everybody's SMART goals. Because in real life, when you set your goals, what ends up happening? You do your project and you may run out of time, right? And all of a sudden you're like, wow, we scoped this wrong. So what am I gonna do next time? I'm gonna look at scope better. I'm gonna say we need to manage time, or we have to have the scope of our project be more focused. So we want students to learn by doing, and our labs are labs of failure. Kids are in and things don't work. I didn't get my circuit to work. My engineering project didn't work. Well, what do you do when it doesn't work? We ask, we figure out how to problem solve. And so the teachers will work through with them when it would be, hey, Mr. Salstrand, I can't get my Arduino to do the thing that I want it to do. It would be, hey, that's a great question. And that's quite a problem you've got. What questions are we going to ask? What resources are we going to use? Who else in the classroom might you talk to? It's not for me to say, oh, here, this is how you do this. Because it's really about them digging in and especially working with that perseverance and persistence and saying, what other resources do I have? Because they're given a lot of other resources as well. So as you go through here, there's a number of elements that really drive students towards having an environment that they want to be a part of. And what we do, and there's 5 areas, we have that customized learning environment, the hands-on projects, standards-aligned curriculum, training and professional development, and ongoing support. So as we build out labs, and I was here last week measuring rooms, taking pictures, and the proposals that I've sent to Wendell so far have the actual plan drawings for the 2 rooms, one at the middle school, one at the elementary, that show the layout of the actual furniture, where things go, what is required. This is an overview of what's there. You know, we have everything, again, from the tables, the displays on the wall, all the storage, everything is a part of the implementation. And these are just some shots of actual labs out there. The other thing, when you look at the curriculum and content, STEM and STEAM is often viewed in a coding and robotics area. That's a very common 2 areas that are very focused on. And we look at and also look at the rest of it of, you know, we have 8 areas of exploration, from circuitry, manufacturing technology, robotics control, software engineering, environmental technology, scientific data analysis, and communication and media arts. And so it is a survey curriculum. We want students to experience these different things so they can say, well, you know, maybe coding for robotics is not for me. You know, I could do it, but it doesn't get me excited. But then I get into media arts and I'm using Adobe and I'm coding, or I'm doing this in graphic design. And well, that really gets, you know, that's where I'm at. So we want them to see a number of different things. And so through these hands-on experiences, we give the students a really broad exploration into all of those areas. One of the things we do with all of our kits, and when we talk about turnkey, is, again, you can have we work with over 100 different manufacturers of robots, tools, all sorts of different things. And when we pull them in, we then say, okay, here's what X may say it does, but then we look at it and say, what is the curriculum? What is the instructional value of this tool? And then the curriculum is written across the standards. We then custom package everything so it has the main unit, all the consumable and non-consumable materials, and even if you're working on something like a robot or a drone or things that use a lot of batteries, well, in those kits there's a year's worth of batteries as well. So we're not, again, making it very easy for the facilitator to really work and do the lab versus saying, I'm always thinking about what am I missing? What types of things don't I have? And so when we think about this, one of the things that comes up is sustainability. We can talk about, I'm just gonna jump through those. We'll get to the curriculum in just a moment when we move through that. Sustainability, you know, we look at sustainability from a few different places. Number one, in a turnkey environment, you have all the elements. You're not saying I'm missing something, I have to make other expenditures. It's all there. Number two, when you look at your year-to-year use, those materials are there. They're meant to be used over years. So there are things that are very sustainable. Your licensing provides you with all the curriculum and content you need, not only to meet your school day needs, but as well, you have enough curriculum that you could do an after-school program. You could use it for summer STEM or STEAM camps. So there's a lot of variety and enough capacity in there. One of the other things that is a part of the sustainability is that our STEM and STEAM facilitator that is a part of the lab, we're, of course, and I'm going to show you this, we do a lot of training with them. This is a different environment. It's turning it over to the kids, which is not always easy. I was a middle school and high school teacher. I know how that is. So we provide a lot of training and support, but also if you were, say, 2 years from now, somebody said, hey, my family's leaving town, we're moving down to Wausau and I'm taking a job there, so now you have this position open. With the CSA plan in place, which is your annual cost, which is $7,000, and I'll talk about that in a minute, we will train a new facilitator for you at no extra cost. So it's a part of the sustainability of saying, you're not having somebody leave and now, wow, it's impossible to get somebody to try and figure out what to do here and how to run the lab. We're gonna make sure that happens for you. In training and professional development, which is really important, this is the key element right here. When a facilitator would come in, number one, we have a foundations training. It's an online course that takes 8 hours to begin with, because we want them to build up a background of what are the concepts and thoughts we have around running the Smart Lab. Phase 2 is 2 8-hour days on site. So our trainers come here to Tomahawk, work with the facilitators in their classrooms, in the labs, working on the materials. Before they arrive here, those trainers understand what grade levels, what does the schedule look like, all those types of things. So they're prepared to say, here's how you might want to kick this off. And we have a lot of things set out to begin with to be able to say, if you wanted to, all right, I don't have a specific thing in mind. Here's a 6th grade course 1, a 6th grade course 2. Here's your scope and sequences you could follow. Or you could go in and pick and choose however you would like. It is up to you. The third phase is a training after our on-site training, where they're getting online and again working through concepts and organization with the Smart Lab. And the last one, which is as important, if not as all the rest, is we have 10 months of monthly support for that facilitator, because we know that challenges will come up. We know that it's going to be different from month to month. They're going to learn different things, have different challenges. So our trainers partner with them one-on-one. So that long-term training is something that's very important to us. The instructional coaching, that's the overview of what we do for that 10 months. And with that, I will leave it at there for my presentation. I'll entertain any questions or let me talk about the proposals that we put together. 2 proposals for 2 24-student labs, one at the elementary and one at the middle school. And that is complete. So you have those proposals along with the plan drawings. And as we would move into the next stages, what we would do is actually move into what we call a contracting phase. And that's where we would also, our architect would put together the light electrical and data drawings, because there will be some, and as I've worked with Dean and the staff when we went around, the islands and things need electrical drops in the ceiling and things of that sort. So the rooms will need some modifications before installation. So that'll be provided. So you'll have all of that and you'll be able to hand it off right to an electrician, and it's going to give them everything that they need to know. And we even make a custom panel that fits right in drop ceilings, so that when we ship those out right away when the order's placed, and the electrician wires right into the back, the electrical and the data, it's in the ceiling, and when our installers come here, they're just snapping right into that panel. And when it comes to installation, when we schedule, and I know for this grant that you're part of your funding that you're talking about, it's for summer school. So we can guarantee we can have this in so you're able to have summer school, it's able to qualify for the grant, as long as, of course, purchase orders come in a timely fashion to get everything shipped here. And when our people show up, it's our trucks and our installers show up at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. And by Thursday of that week, you have a completely built out lab ready for training and ready for students. So it's something we do very well. We're very organized and are able to really work that. And we have a project manager that walks it through from purchase order all the way through installation. So they're making a room readiness call 2 weeks before we're scheduled to be there to say, is everything in place? Are we all good? Because we're scheduling trucks and scheduling people to be on site. So it's something that we're very good at and very good at communicating, so that it becomes very easy for you and not a stress point. So with that, I will end and entertain any questions or thoughts.
Any questions?
Throw one out there quick, just Pat, could you just tell the board how many of these labs exist in Wisconsin so far, roughly?
So in Wisconsin, there are right now 12 labs. And for example, closest by is Minocqua. Jim Ellis and the staff up there, they're on their 4th year of a smart lab. And one of the interesting things in this year, he had to replace his facilitator last year. So his facilitator left the community. We trained a new facilitator, which is actually a young man who's in a teacher training program. He has an engineering background, but he's not a teacher by trade. So our training, got him up and running. And I know Wendell had conversations with him when they visited, but places like Shawano, Watertown, we're putting in, it'll be this, actually over spring break this year, we're putting it into middle school, and we also have a video studio, a full video production studio that's going in there. Same with Shawano, they have that. Down in Lodi, they have 2, Baldwin Woodville, and then if you head down to, boy, the name is escaping me now. Southwest of Milwaukee, they actually have 4 labs. So those are some of the labs around the state. The name of the district will come to me in just a moment. I can tell you the names of schools, but not the district off the top of my head.
What are some of the troubleshooting things you've had to deal with on a consistent basis in different districts? I'm sure things are going to go wrong from time to time.
Oh, sure.
I'm just asking for what's more consistent, what one could expect once it's here, to troubleshoot that a little further.
Oh, yeah. So once they're installed, what are the things we deal with mostly as far as, hey, these problems come up? Number one, most often it's going to be, I have a piece of technology that doesn't work, and that's something. So on 2 levels we handle that. Number one, we guarantee everything that is in that lab, regardless of the manufacturer. And so we have our warranty that's on everything, that it's going to work and be replaced if it doesn't, as well as the manufacturer's warranty. So that's some of the things that, because not everything's perfect, stuff doesn't always work. The second thing is, you'll have one lab, especially at the middle school, there'll be one island of computers, because the students will use Chromebooks, because they can access everything that they need to do through their Chromebooks. But at middle school, because we're using some technologies that don't run on Chromebooks, they will have an island of PCs that will be used for those applications. And if there's something that goes wrong, whether with the PC or the software that's there, we own the management of those systems. So it's not something that Dean has to manage. As a matter of fact, our IT support, we get the call, somebody's having problems, our IT support, they go into that computer and fix it. So we take the pressure off local IT of having to say, well, I'm not familiar with that piece of software because it's sort of a one-off in this lab, and they don't need to be, because we will handle that. So those are some of the things that happen that we support most often.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I just had, for the facilitators, that you kind of touched on it, but is there any certification background that they have to have in order to be?
That's a great question. You don't have to be a STEM or STEAM guru to run a smart lab, because it is very student driven, and I'm never going to be in the front of the room teaching about circuits or how an Arduino works and programming, or because that is all pushed into the student's hands. And so when you look at the qualifications of a good, and I'll give you 2 types of instructional models between the elementary and the middle school and how that works. At the elementary grades, at K through 2, they do whole group work. So they're working, the K through 2 students aren't working on technology, they're not hey, log into your Chromebook at K through or your iPad. No, everything is hands-on, everything is given with activity cards so that we understand those learners. 3 through 5, so if we have a 24 student lab, that means we have 4 islands of 6 students each. So each island is working on their own projects. So we may have some manufacturing here and coding here. So there's multiple projects going on at the same time in the room because then we rotate, we move them through. At the middle school, because they can handle it more, now at that island of 6 students, each pair of students is doing different projects. So on one island, you could have a coding, you could have manufacturing, you could have environmental science going on at the same island, and they're working and they're doing their own thing. So there's no way that, number one, that I'm gonna be instructing absolutely everything. So one of the things in our experience in the hundreds and hundreds of facilitators that we've trained is that, sometimes English language arts teachers are also very good facilitators. So you don't necessarily, because we know it is hard to find, and you're tech ed, you know how hard it is to find STEM and STEAM gurus out there. But that's not the way this has ever been set up. So even before the shortage. So you don't need to have, other than being a licensed teacher, especially at the middle school, I know with with credits and all those things, there's really no special things that you need to have in their background. They need to be good at organization. They need to be good at herding cats because there's a lot going on in the classroom. They need to be okay with noise and action because an active learning area is a place that is not a sedentary place at all. And there's both exhilaration on one side of the room and frustration over here because my thing just burned up, right? Or it blew up or it fell or whatever it is, but mine succeeded over here. There's a lot going on. So they need to be okay with that because that's just the way it is.
Okay, so they do have to be a certified teacher then.
And I would turn that over to Wendell. I think, especially at the middle school level, that is for sure a requirement, I think, by the state board for a class like that, because you're giving credit for it as an elective or however it is at middle school, but that is a school district's decision.
Okay, then I guess my other question would be for Wendell. Would we be looking then with this, with these 2 sections to additions to the staff or what?
No, right now, the staffing we would have would be sufficient. Yeah, we wouldn't be looking to add.
Okay.
So I have a question. Are we looking at what levels? Elementary, middle school, all 3?
Some decisions need to be made yet based on what we can afford with what we're currently doing and where the needs are. So there's some more folks that need to enter the conversation before we make some final decisions on that. But yeah, what we could do potentially would be K through 8 with these 2 proposals.
So
but I'm not saying that's the way it would.
Right, but based on your answer to Ron's question, what I'm kind of envisioning is we're setting up this lab and then teachers will be able to come in and use the lab or the classrooms will rotate into that lab throughout the week.
We would have a designated facilitator, yeah, so
okay.
It looks different. Currently, we do, we have one person that handles up through sixth grade or 7th grade, Stacy, 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th are handled through the high school and sharing staff. So those are some of the decisions we have to look at and make on how it's going to be staffed, but it wouldn't be different facilitators. It would be a designated person that runs.
And you gotta look at this by going up to MHLT with Jim Ellis, and I know my son was there, that's why.
Sure.
And I'll speak to that a little bit because I think we saw a younger group of kids come in, and so we're gonna plan another trip. I don't know if it'll be the whole admin team, but we wanted to mainly see what does the lab look like, what is the size of the lab, do we have facilities that would even accommodate something like this? And then, we had some great conversations with their instructor, Connor is his name, and he talked to us actually a little bit, Pat, about the training. And he said as he came in and, he's licensed, but he's under an emergency license or a license with stipulations and earning that degree. But he said the training that he went to, it was a night and day difference on how he facilitated the class before and after and how the kids responded to it. So he had really high things to say about about how the training helped him facilitate that lab. I can tell you what we witnessed were a group of kids come in, and for the vast majority of the period that they were in there, their teacher was working with us and talking to us, and they were engaged on their own, working through the challenges that were
At
provided
what
to
level
them.
was it?
These were second graders.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were they were knocking out of the park. So we were impressed with what we saw, and that led to us taking the next step to have Pat come up and give us a more ballpark figure on what this is going to cost and what it looks like. But yet we're early in this process, and I think within the next month or so we'll have all those pieces together and pull a recommendation out for you.
Okay.
I just have a question. In the middle school, we have the program that Peggy Billen put in there. What was that?
That was a makerspace.
Okay, what will happen with that, or is that a whole separate thing that we keep
Actually,
going?
it's going to be incorporated. Some of the things that are involved in that makerspace, as far as the furniture and other pieces, would fit nicely into a spill-out lab for this. So
Okay, so they would be able to utilize that stuff.
utilize some of it, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Pat.
coming up.
Yeah.
Or coming over, whatever it is.
Before the snow hits.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we gotta get a lot of that.
okay. Next item is staff reports, and we're gonna get a presentation on co-teaching.
So we have tonight Kimberly Gibo and Renee Loke, who are going to talk about co-teach, co-plan. I'll let Wendy set this up. This is an initiative that she's been pretty instrumental in pioneering and pushing forward. So
So we've been working on the co-teaching model for a couple of years. So, I don't know, Ryan and I first started talking about it probably 4 years ago. Modeling it off of like Annette Benninghoff, looking at some of that. And then last year we really dug in and started working with it with Cecil. So last year we worked with our special ed teachers and our reg ed teachers in the areas of math and ELA in grades 6 through 10. We had the 11 and 12 in the higher level math, and ELA's part of the conversation because sometimes they switch classes and teach different things, but really focusing on those areas because that's where the report cards come out on, and that's what we're measured on, and there's, as we know, gaps with students with IEP. So part of it is where can they get access to the best curriculum with our content experts, with our SPED teachers, modifications. So I'm gonna let these two talk about it a little bit, but they kind of started it before we started the process. They were in it, so they were ready to go, and they're our team that's furthest along, and Danielle Adams is also part of their team, but she couldn't make it tonight. But last year we worked on what is it and why. This year, more the co-serving and co-planning, and then next year we're hoping to get to the co-teaching level where they're equal partners in the classroom, but we also respect that we have hires and leaves, people that come and go. So everybody's at a little different stage of the journey, but we're supporting them on that where they're at. And these ladies are super far along and they do a great job, so they're gonna share some successes and some barriers and how it's gone. So we have Mrs. Gibo and Ms. Loka here.
Okay. So like Wendy said, this is happening in ELA and math, and it's working from 6th grade through high school. When this first started, we were kind of pushing into the classroom, and I don't think we really called it co-teaching. It was more like being a glorified para in the classroom, helping the kids out. And we had some kids that were coming out into pull-out classes, and it was like I was reinventing the wheel in a SPED setting for the same thing that was happening in the regular ed setting. So kind of led us into some of the co-teaching. How we determine what kids go into a co-taught class through their IEPs is typically it's for students who could use more intensive supports in the classroom. They're gonna need some modifications to their assignments, a little more reteaching in the classroom and more support in the classroom than we would expect like our normal paraprofessional to give in the classroom. Also, sometimes there's some kids who connect better with their case managers or who have some behavioral needs that work out better, so they might end up in there too. Not every student ends up co-taught that has an IEP though. I have students that go in the classroom with a para, and I have students that go in the classroom that are unsupported too, and then maybe you can touch on them as a regular ed student too.
Yeah, so some things that have gone really well so far this year is that we have secured time for co-planning. So Mrs. Loca and I meet at least once a week for the ELA portion. I teach ELA. And then she also meets with the math teacher as well at least once a week. So it's just nice that we have that secure time where we can touch base about our upcoming lessons.
In conjunction with that, when I meet with Kimberly, the counterparts, the classrooms that are para-supported, Amanda Bandock and Cole Woodall, are also coming into our co-planning. So it's not just planning for our co-talk classes, we're able to adapt and modify with those teachers who might not have a co-teacher with them, but are able to use those supports in their classroom as well. So we're really able to talk about all kids. And when you look at some of our regular ed kids who struggle with some concepts, we're able to meet their needs that way too.
We've had some great professional development through CISA, and we've been working off of different models where we might call it like what teacher A does and teacher B. And there's just different ways that we can meet the students' needs, and teacher A doesn't always have to be the lead teacher, but we're both in the room at the same time, and ultimately the end goal would be that we're both teaching and students won't really even know like who the lead teacher is and who the special education teacher is. So that's what we're working towards in the future.
Great. With CISA, we've been able to set up templates to work through our planning. It's been a much easier process with math with Danielle. I'd say Danielle and I are further along, and it looks more like a co-teaching model than it does in ELA. One of those barriers with that is right now in ELA we're piloting different curriculums, and so to not know if we're going to stick with this and put it all in writing for next year, we're kind of living in trying to figure out the new material. It's hard to put all that down, so we're just kind of swimming through the waters of new curriculum and trying to figure all that out. One of the biggest benefits this year, which I've never had since I've come to Tomahawk, I specifically have a 6th grade caseload. And this has helped significantly because in the past I've always been 2 to 3 grade levels, and to communicate with that many teachers and keep up with that many students was really a challenge. So I've really seen the benefits this year of being a single grade level special ed teacher in working with just those kids and getting to know them and their needs.
And it's really benefited all students. We can do different formats of grouping all different ways, and all the kids feel included and no one really feels different in any way.
It's really nice too because all students have access to that same instruction. They have access to the same standards. And then we can just modify to meet their needs versus always pulling them out and not being able to hit as many standards. Do we pull students out sometimes? Yes. Sometimes if we have a small group that's not getting something or just needs to work through something, I might take them to a classroom next door and reteach in the classroom. Can I do that right in the classroom? Depending on what's going on in there, we can do that too. So
every day looks a little different.
Yeah. It's kind of neat to go through both ELA and math as well because we're able to link those ELA and math needs into our win time, the what I need time with our kids. So if there's something they're struggling with in the classroom, I can touch upon that in those classes as well. And the benefit too of working together, Kimberly and I and Danielle and I have worked together for several years now. And we're able to work off what we already built. So Danielle and Cole and I, we've worked out our templates for the year for math because Danielle will be going on maternity leave, so we can do our scoping sequences for the year, but then we can adjust that from year to year based on our kids and what worked and what didn't. So it's nice to be able to build those relationships over time. Growing pains. It's not been a perfect model. We've done a lot of learning. We've done a lot of communicating with CISA and our administrators about what works when we have training and what doesn't, and they've been very responsive to that, giving us some time to work together to figuring out some of that planning. We talked about the changes in curriculum. Right now we're looking at ELA, and then we're also in the process of studying our math curriculum as well, so we'll see where that goes too. We talked about the more than one grade level, and then I know Wendy touched on the staff turnover. It's kind of made it hard because not everybody is at the same place. So when we go into this training, we recognize that everybody's at different places. We had Casey come in today from CISA and observe our math planning time, and she always gives good feedback where she gives us goals to work toward and make our planning and teaching that much better to move forward. So the only other big thing that interrupts the co-teaching process, I would say sometimes behavior gets in the way. I know there's times in the morning where I'll have a student come in having a bad morning and I won't be able to get in class right away, but it's really nice to know I have another teacher to depend on, or vice versa if we need to step out for a minute and get those kids settled. So.
How has this been received by the parents?
I've not heard a negative comment from any parents. There are parents who I think might want to see their kid in that situation, but like I said, it doesn't meet every student's needs, and we can say in some instances your student would be better supported by a para over a co-teacher, because we want these students to work towards independence, and that's our goal. If I don't have to co-teach and they can do it independently over here, that's where we're.
Well, I think the students are gonna gain from what you're doing.
Yep.
I just wanted to know how they were perceiving this also.
And like Renee said, we still base it on IEP, so we do have some kids that are all pull-up. It's based on whatever those individual needs are, so, and then there's some kids that are in just the para supported, because they just need a little bit of help, and then there's some that for whatever reason their AP need that co-taught. So the strategies they're using, you have your content expert, as a SPED teacher, you're not the content expert, so if you pull them out and you're teaching it, are you the best person to be teaching that? So that's why sometimes it helps to push it in, because and then the SPED teacher is the expert in the modification and supporting all needs and incidental benefit for everybody. So you have all this curriculum, you pull them out, you're hitting this spot and this spot and this spot, but they're missing all the other things that all the other kids are getting. So then when we have test doesn't, so by pushing them in, they're exposed to all this academically and hitting all of it, and then during like their win time or their team time, they do still pull the kids out and work on those lagging skills. But then also, conversely in academics, Renee's hitting all of the accommodations that benefits all kids too. It's kind of like the 7-10 split thing. You aim for the outside, not the middle, because then you hit them all in between.
Okay.
So,
Anything else, ladies? Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, the elementary AGR report, Guy?
So each year we have to report on the AGR. We do it twice a year. I rewrote the grant. I think it's been 2 years now. So our allocation for this year is a little over $437,000. And we can get under this grant under one of these three criteria. One is class size reduction. The way our numbers are, we wouldn't qualify based on that. The area that we choose to try to qualify under for this grant is coaching support, which we can offer in a variety of different ways, either through our interventionists or somewhat with CISA support. So we chose to do that one. The third criteria is not one that we do, it's one-on-one tutoring. So we didn't put that down as an area to qualify in. So when we do our report for this current session, we look at the teachers in grades K through 3 set a baseline, and then we do checks in, we just finished a check in math and reading, and then we do another one at the end of the year. So right now, if you look at our results based on the assessments, and they can pick any type of assessment, either reading or math if they want to, for most subject areas, reading and math grade levels, we're about a third of the way to meeting the goal. We have students that have already met the goal, and in some cases we have students that are on pace to meet the goal, and in some cases we have students that aren't quite there yet. So across the board we need to work with all of our groups, but that's where we're at with reading and math right now. So I don't know if you have any questions based on the report. Each grade level gives me the report, and I report it out to the board twice a year.
Any questions? Oh, thanks, Guy. Next item is approve the long-term pay for support staff subs. You should have those figures in front of you.
Yeah.
Any comments at all, Wendell, we need to make?
No, this is something we discussed at the at the personnel committee meeting around a month ago, we pushed it till this meeting. The one thing that I would say, and I don't know that I put this in the description, is we did agree to, if this proposal goes through, we would back pay to January 1st, since it would be an update. So one of the things we don't have, just to give you the context of this and why it's here, is we have long-term sub pay. Anybody that's in a single position for more than 20 days or at 20 days would, for a teaching role, gets long-term teacher pay, which is equivalent to their first-year teacher rate. We don't do the same thing for any of our support staff positions, and we increasingly have long-term subs that are filling in certain spots. So we feel that this would be something that we obviously want to encourage people to still step into those roles and have quality people that will step into those roles and do a good job for us, because they are very important jobs to our district. So this would be a way to incentivize and also ensure that we have people that will continue to be willing to do that down the road.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion then to approve the long-term pay for support staff subs.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation. Long-term pay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the long-term pay for support staff subs. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Colleen, I'd like to abstain from the vote, please.
Okay, thank you. Strategic planning spotlight?
Yeah, so I know our strategic scorecards, balanced scorecards were, some of them were contained in the staff reports as well, but if you access the attachment here, what I tried to do for you all is provide links on one scorecard so you can get to every department and building on the scorecard. The district scorecard just looks at it. Excuse me, I think you're kind of catchy. So the district scorecard just highlights a few things. All we're doing in this one is looking at that mid-year academic, the interim assessment data that we have across the board. So I put some of those numbers in there in line with the goals that we have. We typically see that winter or that mid-year data doesn't give us an accurate trend line to the end. And it's kind of different from year to year, but the mid-year seems to be kind of a wild card. And I think partly it's when the assessment is given with regard to when some of these topics are covered, but we tend to see as we get to the end, the higher scores that come through. So the mid-year one is we still update it. We still would like to see a nice trend line, or at least remain flat. We don't want to see big drops in the middle of the year and that sort of thing, but this is pretty well in line with what we've seen in past years as well. Scrolling through this, the only other thing that I would add is if you get to the community engagement pillar, I did update and add in. So one of the goals that we had was that we will increase the number of survey participants in a school perception survey from 26%, so we increased that by 10%. And two of the strategies that we wanted was to have an active community education program. We were well on the way to doing that. We have the position filled, and I've updated the board on how we're making progress with that area. And then looking at some active advertising stuff. So included in there, obviously the school app does a good job of getting some of that information out, and we will have another school-wide survey coming out this spring. The district newsletter was a part of that too. So there's some steps there that we've already accomplished that we're looking to grow as we get in the future. But those are the main highlights of what we had to update mid-year, and then each building can break that out specifically.
Okay.
This, I don't believe, is just an update. Yeah.
Any questions?
No, it's just nice all being in one spot.
Okay. Approval of bid for audit services. We're looking at Whiffley?
Yep, Whiffley was the bid that we accepted. I don't have an informational sheet from them right now to throw it out there, but I provided in the description some of the reasons that we looked through that bid process and why we made this selection.
You've had them in the past also, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the bid for audit services with Whiffley.
I so move, Scooball.
Second,
Second, Baloo.
motion is second to approve the audit services with Whiffley. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
You know, I look and like, God, I'm coming.
You're looking the wrong direction.
You're probably right. Can't just get that from my wife. I got another thing.
Okay, approve the Q2 finance report.
So the Q2 finance report was presented in detail to the Finance and Operations Committee at our last meeting. I did include in the description some of the highlights from what was presented, and the attachment there contains not only the financial report, but we also added on the back side of that some of the items that are on our 10-year capital improvements priority list. That's not the entire list, but those are the ones that we would hope to accomplish within the next couple of years. So those are included, and we continue to update that.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve the Q2 finance report.
So moved, Hirsch.
Long second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the Q2 finance report. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the annual building and grounds priority project list and approval update.
Little summarized sheet for you guys.
Thank you. It's not much of a tan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlen.
Thank you. Colleen, if you need to send this to anyone else. So a number of these projects we've been working towards for a while. It's just getting contractors lined up and all that. It's still tricky there. So, but this summer we're looking to complete the tuck pointing on the elementary. Anyone not know what tuck pointing is? Want an explanation?
Refresh us.
Okay. So if you look at the wall behind you or beside you, see that grout line between the bricks?
Yeah.
That is literally falling, getting pushed out from years of the water getting in there, freezing, and it's pushing that mortar out of the bricks in the elementary. So before we lose the integrity of those walls, want to get that repaired. It's a lot cheaper to do it this way than to have a wall fall down. So,
okay.
The other big project that we're doing, and again, a lot of this, we've got the money because we've gotten caught up on the roofs. Everything that was 30 plus years old has been taken care of. And so now I'm trying to redirect those funds to taking care of some of the other things that are in need. So we're finishing up the rest of the windows. Also this summer, both the gyms are due for being taken down, and with that, there's a rebranding that Wendell and Flynn were working on together. So we're adding that piece in. We are replacing the high school dishwasher. That's the last one we have that's in need. So that'll take care of all our dishwashers within a 4-year span of each other. The motor control center, that was something that was ordered back in March a year ago. It's finally arrived. We've got it in the building. Now we're just waiting for spring break to do the switch over of that gear. So I put a little explanation on there if you're trying to understand what that takes care of. But the other thing is we're replacing the flooring in the 4K wing.
Some of the advantages that this will give us too is we won't have to be taking up so much time for the waxing and all that. That part will come out. And so one of the issues we've always had is with summer school and, trying to push displace the teachers that are in there because it's such a lengthy process down at that end of the building. This will help us allow the teachers to stay in there, get through summer school, and then allow us still to get completed with everything we need to do for the summer, as summer has been getting shorter for us. So the additional, losing a couple weeks may not sound like much, but it does put us in a hard spot to get everything done and ready. The other thing that we're working on is we have failing lights in the parking lot. They're still lit, but there's almost no actual light coming off of them. So we have those here, and maintenance and we're switching those over. So the other thing that's not on here is our construction tech has been working with maintenance and facilities to redo one of our dugouts. So as part of their class, we've just been buying the material, and they've been providing all the labor and the educational for the kids to actually see what their hard work puts into it and give it back to the school. So real excited. They've got most of that. They've been working on it throughout the winter, and Mr. Peisig has that in pieces so that we'll help them get that out there, and should be able to get that going before the next season. Any questions about anything?
Any questions? Okay, thank you. And I'd entertain a motion to approve the building and grounds priority project list as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the building and grounds priority project list.
I'll second it. Kissinger?
Okay, a motion is second to approve the annual building and grounds priority project list. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Approve, opposed? I'm losing it here. Okay, motion carries. Approve the formation of an ad hoc referendum committee. So that's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yep.
Do you have any comments you wanted to make on that?
No, not really. I just, we're looking at starting that planning process, so this would probably be a good time to get those folks identified that want to be and want to serve on that committee.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve that ad hoc committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the ad hoc committee for a referendum.
Okay, second.
Long second.
Motion is second to approve the ad hoc referendum committee. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And if you're interested, contact Wendell.
Yeah, contact myself or Colleen, and we'll put a list together and start planning some meetings.
Okay. Update on the reapportionment ad hoc committee. Okay.
Yeah, I'll start off. We had a meeting last week and we've updated the PowerPoint presentation. There were some things that we had to update in the PowerPoint presentation we presented last month. We've also worked on selecting dates for community presentations. People have been assigned to go out to different town hall meetings just to introduce the topic to the town boards out there. And then there's some meetings that are going to be set up, community meetings, to present the whole concept to the community, and those are in March. Four of them set up at different times. So we've got that set up. And we've also worked on compiling a list of questions for legal advice, where we go for the next steps. And that we're working on. I talked to Wendell about having a Zoom or a phone contact with us at the next meeting so we can go through the process on that. That's a short and simple. You two add on, because did you go to any town board meetings?
Yeah, I went to King and Harrison last night. Really done not much report from Harrison. They're appreciative of the information. King actually, one of the representatives for the town of King asked how it would affect his taxes. So I don't think it's going to affect that at all, but that's certainly an answer. We need to answer that question definitively, so we'll have to put that on the list for legal counsel, I guess, to make sure that we know that this shouldn't have any kind of an impact on that. Then the dates that we selected, just so that we're on the record for that during the meeting. We're 2 public meetings scheduled for March 13th, which is a Wednesday at 4 o'clock and 6:30.
Here.
Right here in this room. And then the 19th, which is a Tuesday at 5:30, also here, and the 21st, Thursday at 6:30. So those will be open meetings for anybody who wants to attend to give input and feedback for the reapportionment committee.
And we tried to, really made an effort to try to pick different times to accommodate different people's schedules, as well as different days for those meetings. What we need from everybody is to just get the word out that, hey, if anybody has questions about this, that's why we're doing this. We want input from the community in regards to this. Those of us on the committee have put a lot of time and a lot of discussion and research into it, but we want that input from the community. So, you can help by getting that word out and encouraging people to come and ask questions and find out what's going on.
And the word's gotten out through Channel 12. It was on Channel 12. It was on WJJQ this morning. There's something on WXPR that Dave had worked on. And I know Jalen had contacted me from the Leader today too.
Do we have it on the app? Did we get it out on the Facebook app? Can we?
We can, yeah, we can get some information on there
Yeah.
and create a quick link for it, yeah, for sure.
And we're trying to literally just get it right in front of people, so they don't have to search for it. So we, even prior to the meeting tonight, had said, hey, can we get a pop-up on the school website for a month? Right, that when they go to the school website, that's the first thing that pops up, because this is something people vote on. And, we just want to be sure that we're, doing our due diligence to get the word out. That we got their opinion.
Can you give me those 2 dates again? March 13th at 4 o'clock?
March 13th at 4 o'clock and 6:30. Well, that's the meeting. We'll have 2 on that day, and that's the only time we'll have 2. And then the 19th will be at 5:30.
Okay,
And the 21st will be at 6:30.
thank you.
Dave, you had gotten a comment last night too, and maybe just to add to clarity on it, on what's driving this as far as the demographics and why the change is made?
Yeah, it kind of came up, and that's in the history in our report, our presentation, but it's just because the demographics have shifted pretty dramatically from the current model that we're operating in. For example, the city was it 49%, Kay? 49% of the district, and so there's 4 representatives for the city, whereas now it's 33%. So there's just a lot of population shifts, and we're just not really represented that way anymore. So we need to take another look at it.
That's a general population, has nothing to do
General
with
population, not student population. That was actually brought up at the meeting last night as well. Thanks, Wendell. Apparently there's a rumor floating around that we're doing this based on student population, and we're students of it's the general population. And so, no, our reapportionment models are all based off of census data and population. And again, another very important part of this process is we're recommending that it be codified so that we're re-examining this every 10 years and looking at to make sure that we're still represented correctly.
Instead of waiting half a century before we redo it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any questions? Next item is board referrals. First one is the WASB Legal Conference. If anyone's interested in attending, contact Colleen. When is that? I don't remember when it is.
Is that February 19th, or I'm sorry,
This weekend or
February
next week?
29th?
It's coming up the end of the
Is that a
month.
Thursday? This is leap year,
Yep.
so I think that's the right date. Yep, that's the date. It's in Paper Valley in Appleton.
Okay. The, just I wanted to make a little bit of a presentation on the convention that we attended. I asked Ann if she would put together a one-page overview of the different sessions that she attended, and I'll ask Kay if she has any comments, and just myself have some comments on the state convention. But this is from Ann, and Ann, I appreciate you putting this together for us. One of them was hot topics in special education and student services. The session covered questions for board members to ask their district leaders. A review of how special education is funded was presented. Staffing challenges and hiring options were looked at. The role of student service director in meeting student needs and supervising staff was defined. The session ended with suggestions of questions to bring back to our district. Next one was sharing doesn't end in kindergarten. This session was about how 4 rural school districts shared their resources to provide for their students' opportunities, usually only supported by large school districts. The session focused on how the districts develop their partnership and how they work together to capitalize on opportunities that benefit students in all 4 districts. The next one that Ann was at was Wisconsin's public opinion on education issues. The Marquette Law School poll was surveyed residents since 2012 using the most recent poll. Marquette Law professors highlighted the trends over the years. So much information with a lot of conversation and predictions. She then went on a tour of the Milwaukee Parkside School for the Arts. Amazing. This pre-K through 8th grade school uses an art integrated approach to remote learning and the basic skills of reading, writing, social studies, science, and math. The school has their own media studio with their own broadcasting lab, Project Lead the Way classroom, and aquaponics, is that right?
Yeah.
You can't put big words in there, Ann, for me. Okay, where am I at now?
Aquaponics.
You're planting.
And culinary center and a piano lab. Vaping, clearing the haze with best practice solutions. Excellent presentation presented by the Partnership for a Tobacco-Free Wisconsin. A very informative session with some excellent resources available to school districts. The American Lung Association has a program that gives an alternative to suspension for students that are caught with vape product. Then next one was building background knowledge for your youngest learners. This was a presentation by the Pewaukee School District about how they transform their 4K classrooms into hands-on learning labs that are play-based. As I listened to their presentation, I reflected on my own teaching of young children, and I thought, this is exactly how I taught in my classroom. Nothing that can't be done in any classroom. Teachers just need to have the leadership and desire to put forth the effort. Excuse me. And finally, grow your own, strengthen the teacher pipeline for rural schools. This session focused on the interactive approach to describing the landscape of strategies utilized by rural school districts to answer staffing challenges. The national initiative, Educators Rising, as well as locally developed Grow Your Own programs was discussed. And she said last that she'd be glad to share any notes or information that people have with her. Just contact Ann. So, thank you, Ann. Okay, anything?
Okay. Yeah, I went to several different workshops. I'm going to just highlight some of them. One was on communication, how communication is essential with the community and different ways. And it was put on by Mineral Point and Waterford school districts, and they had quite a few good examples on their website and things like that that we could look at. You know, one of the things, I'm going to just highlight some things. You know, do we ever check our Google Analytics and how often people are hitting us and looking at things? I mean, that was one thing they suggested, looking at something like that, so you can see what you're reaching out to the people in that. And the other thing that I've highlighted on here, there's something out there called the Grant Gopher. It's a place that you can find grants. You go online, it says Grant Gopher, and there's grants out there, so FYI out there. But they talked about how they meet quarterly with the chamber. The superintendent and board president go out and keep the open lines of communications with the chamber, the city, and different representatives like that on a regular basis. There's a media class at Mineral Point, and they empower the students to engage the students in getting that information out to the public. There was one on school safety I went to, and the thing that came back from that I thought was pretty interesting is, you know, you have drills and you automatically do this, 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 and this. And they incorporated a different method of doing it as far as bringing in the high school drama to teach improvs. That, okay, if there's a bear coming, what would you do? Run or fight? You know, just to change it so the kids have a little different perspective and that type of thing. And it was just a whole different approach in teaching school safety and getting kids involved instead of saying, okay, now everybody get under the desk or do this or do that. What would you do if a bear was coming in a room versus an eagle coming in the room and stuff like that. Sustainability, there was another workshop I attended on. Middletown is going to, they want 100% of their district operations energy needs to be renewable by 2035. So they have, that was a big goal to see some of the stuff that they're going to do with that. The biggest one that I attended, or the most engaging one, I think you went to that one too, Ron, was the community engagement with our new hire with Taylor Remington. I did with Taylor on it. I had quite a few points, and I found some more notes for her that I'd share with her to go through about information that comes out of River Falls and how their community engagement program works. They do over 200 programs a year, and was it 3,000 or something they've done since their conception. And there are different steps that they have. The framework for community education is getting the community involved, community involvement, doing a needs assessment and planning, extending the use of public education for facilities, interagency partnership, and leadership and accountability. So having an advisory committee working with her and getting some of the program going. I did, like I said, I did share that stuff with her, and I've got another thing that I'll touch on really brief too at the end. And the last one was outdoor education program put on by Superior School Forest up there, in the program that they do in the school forest with having it out in their backyard. Some of the stuff that we have, potential, there's a lot of potential out there, and how they talk about not only is it, you know, you've got all your teaching that you can do, your math, your ELA, all that stuff can occur out there, science and that, and even for calming, for the mental, once you get out in the how it changes the kids' attitude. And I someday want to build a Da Vinci Bridge. I want to figure out that Da Vinci Bridge and build that. That's going to be one of my projects and stuff. But there was they had the concession, not the concession stands, the, what's the hall?
Vendors?
The vendors that were there. And I ended up talking to somebody from Children's Hospital on a program they have called Awareness to Action, and it's about preventing child sexual abuse in organizations. And what they have is a free in-person or a virtual workshop working with communities in a cohort situation to work on policies that they're standard across like our community, policies and that type of thing. I did talk to the person yesterday. I had a Zoom conference with her about some potential partners that we could do on this, looking at policies so everybody has the same approach for preventing child abuse in organizations. So I'm going to bring this probably back to Wendell and just talk a little bit. Taylor was familiar with the project on that, and I've sent out messages to Kinship, to the Public Health Department, and Girl Scouts, and a couple of organizations like that. So.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to touch on the one that Kay brought up, the community education. What that did for me was to reinforce that we're doing the right thing. We're headed in the right direction with our community education program. A lot of things they talked about is exactly what we're trying to do and get put together. I think I forget how many classes they have in the building. I think it was like over 30 in a semester or something. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I asked them was, what's the most difficult thing that you have in trying to put this together? Finding instructors. Trying to get people, you may want to, on filling out tax forms. So now somebody's got to come in to teach that, or on retirement, those types of, whatever it might be. Trying to find teachers that would help or to teach whatever the community's interested in having, I thought. That was the biggest problem that they have, they told me. The general sessions I thought were good. I hate to tell Deb this, but I did attend the delegate assembly. It was a 3-hour session, it was over in 2 hours, Deb.
Ron had to stop watching there.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
But,
He couldn't wait to tell her.
I don't know how to tell you this, but I actually enjoyed it. I thought it went well. We had 2 individuals in there that were calling for the vote. Somebody go off, as soon as they stood up, you know what was gonna be happening, they'd call for the vote. But I think it ran pretty smooth. But I actually did enjoy it. I think you would have too, Deb, this time around.
I'm sure I would have.
And then we had a couple other general sessions that I thought were good too, that, a lot of presentations and stuff like that. I was surprised that there was as much downtime as it was. It seemed to me that there was downtimes at time anyway, but then I know we got, Smart Lab and all the rest of these vendors in there that, want to be able to meet and talk with people going through, so. But overall, I thought it was good, and if you've never been to one, I'd suggest you try to get to one. I think they're very good. Okay? All right, before we go into closed session, we forgot to put on the agenda the public comment. Is there any public comment?
I have a couple of things. First of all, I had a parent at my house last week, and they were extremely pleased with the interaction they had with Guy. So thank you very much. It's nice to have them tell you that. But to come to your house and tell you that was good. I really appreciate that. Stacy, I think your therapy dog is a fantastic idea. Sounds goofy, but I really like it, okay? I really did. Ryan Flynn, busy time of the year. I only know a part of what he's doing. But you get a text to him or an email, he gets back to you. He is all over the place, folks. He's doing a phenomenal job. Last but not least, this young lady back there. Every meeting, we're well organized and we set off without a hitch. That's because behind the scenes, so I thank you. That's it, I'm done.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I so move, Scuba.
Second?
Second.